Hello, my name is James Goulding from Kingswood Media. Today I'm talking to Dan Wogan, Product Manager for MPS and Solutions at Epson UK, about the company's business inkjet devices. Dan, 2018 was a big year for Epson. What were your highlights?
Actually, we started off in the summer with a really nice event. We took 500 of our channel partners, not just from the UK, but all the way across Europe, out to Berlin with a big event hosted by our president of our EMEA organisation, and effectively reaffirming our message to our channel partners that we are an indirect sales organisation, that therefore our route to our customers, our final customers, is absolutely through our channel partners. So it's just really important to reaffirm that and to give them the direction that our business is taking. We then brought that back more locally, took that on the road in the UK and across into Ireland. So we started off in London, we disappeared up to Scotland, and we went across to Ireland, so 5 different locations, saw some new partners as well, demonstrated some product and spoke to them about how actually Epson being different, having a different kind of message to a lot of the competition, and being unashamedly inkjet, how that could be to their advantage. And also during the roadshow, we were able to show off some of our other technologies. It's not just purely about print to Epson, so we can highlight some of the other technologies that sit within our organisation, for instance, the projector side of the business, or even within printing, large format or retail point of sale printing. So it was a good opportunity to bring our partners in and really share with them a bit more about the direction that we're going.
You introduced a number of new products this year. Why are they such a significant event for the reseller channel?
I think one of the key reasons is a part and parcel of our differentiation. Because we are unashamedly inkjet, the technology that we're pushing forward in the business printing space is business inkjet. We've moved away from the laser message. Effectively, the way I see it certainly is that laser technology, for a very large extent, and especially the places where these new boxes have been introduced, we're talking about desktop A4 boxes that are usually printing a handful of pages at any one time. Actually, laser technology is the wrong kind of technology for that space. It's not particularly productive. There's a warm-up time. Effectively, we're working with an oven. And just like the oven at home, before I put my pie in the oven, I've got to wait for it to warm up. And that's what happens on the desktop with a little printer. You have to wait for a laser printer to warm up before it will start working for you. But with inkjet, because our business inkjet process is a cold technology, you skip that. So for those quick 1 and 2 pages, the new A4 products really demonstrate a productivity benefit. And it allows our channel partners to really ask some questions to get under the skin of their customers, to investigate, how do you do your printing? And actually, if it is big, long print jobs, then last year we introduced a 100-page-a-minute colour copier, again using the business inkjet technology. But for those smaller jobs where you just want 1 or 2 pages really quick on your desktop, from a productivity perspective, inkjet is the right technology for that. And we can deploy solutions on those devices as well. So if there are security concerns, then we can make sure those are covered too. So the channel partner effectively can understand that there's a different conversation to be had, and it moves back into the being able to differentiate. It's a different kind of conversation, understanding their customer a little bit more. And one of the key products in that space has been our mono inkjet. And there aren't any other mono inkjets out there that we can compete against. The space there is very much mono laser. And mono laser, the printed pages from that space are in decline, but it's a whole new space for inkjet with some whole new messaging, with an increase in productivity when you're looking at 1 and 2 pages. So again, it's a differentiated pitch that our channel partners are able to take out to market.
How has your channel responded to these new devices?
The channel response has been really good. If we look at the new mono inkjet product, they can understand that there's a difference there. There are some real key benefits to their customers as to why a small A4 device, really small footprint, but actually one that doesn't require a lot of intervention. It carries some very different messaging for their customer, but equally, if it's a servicing partner, if it's one of our OA, an MPS partner that doesn't need to spend so much time servicing these devices, that's a good thing. That's more margin retained within an organisation. And again, the A4 RIPs, the replacement ink pack products, the colour product in that space, it's taken a really big step forward. Some of the people have had differing views on the aesthetics of the previous product, which had the ink bags on the side of the device. And actually, I think it made it nice and recognizable, but maybe it enlarged the footprint a little bit much. But the new product has integrated those ink bags into the footprint, effectively like a paper tray. So they're very, very easy to replace, but also still really big, so that you can have a device that will sit on somebody's desk and maybe a year, 2 years, without having to change anything other than paper. So from a servicing dealer's perspective, or even if we're deploying using one of our own managed print service solutions, there's much less downtime with those type of devices, which lead to really benefit, increase in productivity, increase in uptime for our final customers.
Business inkjets also have benefits for channel partners, particularly in relation to sort of MPS and servicing. Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah, I think one of the really nice things about our proposition as a whole is it's about being different. During our reseller roadshow that we have undertaken during the autumn, we've done a lot of work with IDC, and those guys are talking about there are a lot of players in that kind of printing space, a lot of perhaps looking at the SME market. But there's a lot of noise there and not a lot of difference. So with our message, we're able to differentiate away from the standard race to the bottom of, I can be slightly cheaper than anybody else. So with the changing technology, we're able to introduce some difference around lower intervention, about lack of packaging. Because when you've got a very large supply, an ink cartridge, an ink bag that only needs to be changed once every year or maybe even 2 years, then we're talking about a very much smaller supply chain, a smaller carbon footprint. And this piece especially, the ecology part, is very, very important to Epson. And increasingly, already, not just increasingly, it's very important to the rest of us as well. There needs to be some steps forward taken in this space, because the environment is a very important factor and will become even more so as perhaps we see some legislation driving certain behaviours. Therefore, the ability to be able to communicate that we can use devices that require 96% less energy is a very, very strong factor. And from a channel partner's perspective, if they're able to save their final customers money on their electricity bills because of a reduction in energy consumption, actually there is a saving for a customer maybe that doesn't need to impact my margin. So it's a completely different conversation that the channel partner can have. And from an Epson perspective, working with our channel partners, we can stand with those partners in their customers and talk about, especially from an ecology perspective, how we can demonstrate that this is how we think. Hopefully, during the course of 2019, we'll be able to share a little bit more with our customer base, our partners especially, about the Epson Paper Lab device that we look forward to bringing to market over the next couple of years. And this potentially is a game changer, because we're taking the paper which in actual fact is the elephant in the room when we're talking about reducing carbon emissions from our printing fleet, because there's more carbon emissions associated with paper than with the devices themselves. So while we're doing all that we can with the reduction in energy around the devices, the paper remains a really important factor. So the idea of a device that within an office can remove some of the weight that paper carries. We can get more value from the paper. We can recycle it on site and use it again on site, reduce those journeys that paper takes, and in fact demonstrate data security. The device effectively grinds paper down to a fiber level and extracts ink and toner. So from a document security perspective, a data security perspective, it's got some really powerful arguments. And that's the kind of conversation that we can have with our channel partners to allow them to demonstrate to their customer that they're working with a vendor, a manufacturer that thinks differently and that wants to be a real positive influence on the environment and on the efficiencies of printing.
What do you think will be some of the main priorities for business buyers in 2019? And how can resellers using your Workforce Pro and Enterprise products help them achieve them?
And I think 2019 is going to perhaps bring some uncertainty, definitely fit in the same sentence, and 2019. So yeah, I think from a procurement perspective, especially for medium, larger organisations, we're already seeing people kind of wait. So there are some thoughts on how that may change things. But outside of political peace, then I think security will remain. Security is a very important factor at the moment. We're seeing incidents of hacking, we're seeing people able to delve into networks via printing devices. So therefore that will remain a really key piece. And for our perspective, the idea of having a very closed infrastructure system on our devices, it's our own operating system, which isn't a known entity out in the market, which makes us quite nice and secure from a starting point, plus those other elements that you can add into that piece. So security will remain a very important factor, and the ability to deploy solutions on devices to control them, to make sure that from a GDPR perspective, data security of a printed page, which is still one of those factors that the likes of IDC report that not everybody realises, that security is not just a digital phenomenon, it is about the printed page as well. As soon as you've got somebody's information on a sheet of paper, then there is a compliancy process around that piece of paper as well. So secure solutions on devices will continue to be a factor.
Obviously, the environment is going to be very important in 2019. Can you tell us a little bit more about Epson's approach to sustainability?
Yes, I do believe so. Well, it is for all of us outside of just the realms of print. Actually, for Epson, the whole ecology piece has been really important. It's part of the DNA of our organisation. So in 2017, we produced the first, from a European perspective, our first non-financial report, which was the Green Report that we've produced. And we aim to do that on an ongoing basis as well, effectively demonstrating how our organisation thinks, and not just the activities we run with regards to the manufacturing of our hardware and the benefits of the hardware, but the manufacturing processes, how we look after our people, all these kind of bits and pieces to paint the picture of how our organisation thinks and feels. As far as the broader market goes, we have to see that we need a plastic bottle to be slapped around our face, and the way that perhaps Blue Planet did that with the general public around plastics, we need that with regards to climate change. It's a slow creep that's coming up, but unless significant differences are made, we're moving to a tipping point that we move beyond and then we can't come back from. So I think the idea that perhaps legislation will help us to drive certain behaviours, but us, even within the perhaps office environment, we've maybe switched our lighting to LED, we've maybe moved our servers off-site and into the cloud and reduced the energy consumed there. The MFDs and the printers are kind of the next step there. And we are dreadful at New Year's resolutions. We're dreadful at making really big promises that we know day 2, it's the 2nd of Jan, I'll have a gin and tonic, please. That is the way that we behave, but the small steps, maybe those small steps of actually I can just change my printers to a slightly different type of printer, and that's going to bring me a 96% reduction in the energy I consume from that perspective. Those kind of small actions, so we're not changing people's behaviour necessarily in their working environment, but we are changing their behaviour around energy, around carbon in the environment that they work in. I think these small steps are able to add up to something quite big and powerful, and we should all start taking small steps in the right directions.